Hello everyone, I hope you really enjoyed that special DBC rendition of Waymaker. It's great to be able to get together in the way that we do. That drummer's something else, isn't he, honestly? And thank you so much in particular to Graham, who puts a huge number of hours in to set all of it up and then to put it all together. Really thankful for that. I hope it's been a blessing to you. Please do feel free to share it with others so that others can enjoy the song. So we are in a series in Acts at the moment. Just to quickly have a quick glance backwards. So we're looking at movement in Acts 2. We looked at being moved was our heading, and there was a sense of us thinking about the Holy Spirit filling us and moving us into action. So moving us in terms of our well-being, our emotional well-being, in terms of our experience of God, being moved internally in and of ourselves, but then being moved into action. And that was continued on as we looked at Acts 3 and 4. The following week, moving in the power of the Spirit, and being able to see the outworkings of the Spirit as others through that work were able to receive the Spirit for themselves. Then in the third week, we looked at kind of chapters 6 to 8. Our heading was moving out, and we thought about this outward trajectory of the church: Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the earth. And just a quick recap on that. Chapter 5, verse 16 of Acts says the crowds gathered from the towns around Jerusalem. So in chapter 5, the people are gathering together in Jerusalem. Then this whole episode with Stephen happens and the persecution breaks out. And chapter 8, verse 1, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem, and all except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria. So we've moved from this model of a gathered church to a scattered church. It's a church now that is not invitational any longer. Come to Jerusalem. It's incarnational as people position themselves out amongst the people who need to know Jesus. And of course, they shared the good news wherever they went. And as we saw, it ended up all the way to Africa through the Ethiopian eunuch. And just notice too, in chapter 1, the verse I've just read talks about the church in Jerusalem. And in a chapter later, chapter 9, verse 31, we see this phrase, the church through Judea, Galilee, and Samaria. There are no other uses of the word church between those two. So we've moved in this small amount of time from a church in Jerusalem, the church in Jerusalem, to the church throughout Judea, Galilee, and Samaria. The church hasn't changed. It's the same church, but it is now spread out around the area, which is just great. And let me just, before we come to chapter 10, just notice Acts chapter 9, verse 31. Then, which is the verse I've just mentioned, then the church throughout Judea, Galilee, and Samaria enjoyed a time of peace and was strengthened. Living in the fear of the Lord and encouraged by the Holy Spirit, it increased in numbers. So as we come to chapter 10, the persecution's broken out, the church has scattered, and now they are having a time of peace and a time of strengthening at this point. So we're now going to have the reading. We're going to read Acts chapter 10, but we're going to do it slightly differently. My own experience of our services being on a screen means we can end up completely separated from them and not engaging in them and just watching a number of videos one after another. So we're going to do the reading slightly differently in that you're going to do the reading. So it's going to be Acts chapter 10, and all I'd like you to do is hit pause on the video in a moment and then read the chapter to yourself. I would read it out loud, even if you're on your own, so that the word is being read out, being spoken out. If you're with others, then perhaps one of you could read it, or you could share it between you. So hit pause in a moment and then read Acts chapter 10. And then when we come back, before we dig into that chapter, we're going to have another song. It's a song that has these words in: we come with expectation, waiting here for you. So we just want to take a moment, once the word's been read, once you've read it, to then come to God and say, we come with expectation this morning to hear your voice. We're waiting in our homes or where we are watching this. We're waiting here for you to come and speak and impact our lives. So so this video will finish in a moment, but if you hit pause before the song starts and then read chapter 10, and I will be back shortly.